This footnote is about a chronic condition that I have that keeps moving my friggin' cheese. Yep, I'm recording this one solo because Mika and I couldn't couldn't coordinate a dual recording time, so here we go. I have a condition called premenstrual dysphoric disorder, or PMDD for short. It's been described as PMS times 1,000. I think it's more accurate to say it's PMS times 1,000,000, because it's not just an extreme form of PMS. For different people who have the condition, it comes with different sets of symptoms, right? So for me, my PMDD is coupled with a lot of depression and anxiety and a lot of fatigue. That is the worst part for me. And so it's something that I have to make adaptations for all the time. You know, when I was working for the university that I was teaching at, I still didn't really have a handle on what I was experiencing, like what my PMDD was all about. So I found that I would sometimes rock up to work and I was just completely wiped out. And when I look back, I think, how did I survive all those years at the university, in the university system, with this condition that would just knock me out for sometimes a solid 2 weeks in any given month. But this is the thing, right? I live with PMDD. There isn't a known cure for it. It's not as simple as taking some herbs. It's not as simple as like taking some essential oils. Like, trust me, I've heard every potential cure under the sun, antihistamines as well. That's trending at the moment as a treatment for PMDD. It's something, I've played around with, but the point is, it's a condition that is still quite unknown in a lot of the medical community because, it mostly affects women, so why give any money to it? But anyway, before I start ranting, I find that when I am in a place where I am comfortable, where I'm feeling secure, where I'm feeling not too terribly anxious, it's, that's a great thing. But then the same exact conditions when I'm impacted by PMDD, which happens right after I ovulate, those same conditions, I can experience them in a completely different way. So in some sense, that comfort is my cheese. And then suddenly that comfort, which I had found in like the same place every day, is suddenly gone. And it's replaced with this feeling of dread, this feeling of panic, this feeling of like, oh my gosh, every bad memory I've ever had is rushing back into my head and I can't do anything about it. It's bizarre. It flattens my past timelines. And it's like every horrible thing I've ever experienced feels like it just happened yesterday. It's such a rip-off of a condition, as far as chronic conditions go. So I find myself very regularly having to run into the maze and find some other cheese station where I can find some semblance of comfort, some semblance of just not being in panic mode. And of course, working in the personal development industry, being a full-time life coach, on one hand, I have developed a lot of strategies to manage the condition, but on the other hand, as a business owner, I also have a lot of responsibilities that mean I need to be at the top of my game more often than not. And I need to time my periods of rest very carefully. So that's one way in which I adapt, actually, when my cheese, my comfort cheese, gets moved. I Sometimes it means I have to rejig my schedule. I need to look at how I'm managing my time and schedule extended periods of rest or inputs is another way I look at it. When I'm being impacted by PMDD in my luteal phase, I call those my input days, which means that I spend that time consuming content that's relevant to my business. I read books, I listen to podcasts, I do the things that are that won't be so physically and emotionally and mentally taxing. But I'm still moving forward in a way because the things that I'm consuming are things that I can take with me when I reach menstruation and the PMDD symptoms start to fade. So, like, I would love to have the luxury of just switching off for 2 weeks and jumping back into life as if nothing had changed. But I don't have that luxury. So, during the time where I am, like at the top of my energy levels and my focus is great, those are my output days. So that's when I create content. That's when I, might connect with new clients or make follow-up calls, the things that require focus, concentration. I like to bundle them into that time period as much as I can. That doesn't mean that I can't do those things during my luteal phase. These are other adaptations that I've made to deal with this movement of my comfort cheese. I can still perform these output tasks, but I just need to be more careful about how I schedule things and how I time things. So I'll do things like limit the number of clients I see in a week when I'm feeling particularly affected. I will, if I have to move around other meetings or appointments with people who I'm seeing for support, I will do that as necessary. I will deliberately clear out my schedule as much as I can, and I realize that that is a privilege that I have as someone who is self-employed. And because PMDD is still so unknown, people who suffer from the condition are told we just have to live with it, right? And until there are better methods of treatment, consistent, effective treatment for PMDD, I'm going to have to keep making changes as these different things occur. Sometimes, another little adaptation that I have made to manage my PMDD is to try to avoid any major stress triggers or triggering events during my luteal phase, or something that I know might be tough to deal with. When I can, I'll try to schedule those things during my follicular phase, so after I menstruate. Because there are some months where I can kind of just sail through with the PMDD without too much drama. But if there is like one big stressful triggering event, that's when things can just go downhill. So, this is another case where I can't really point to a person or a god hand that has moved my cheese and put it in these different cheese stations. This is a situation in which I just kind of have to adapt. As we said in the full episode of the podcast, who moved the cheese? And who keeps moving the cheese that people are told to just adapt to the movement of and chase after? Like, the who does matter. But in cases where we can't even point to a who, we have to dig deep. And we have to find it somewhere within ourselves or with the help of a professional, like, say, a life coach, aka me, or a PMDD specialist. Some gynecologists specialize in PMDD. It's important to not just feel like you're drowning all the time, Because if you find yourself stuck in that mode, it's going to be really hard to pull yourself out of that. So, to my PMDD warriors out in podcast land, you are not alone. You do have a right to seek comfort while you're dealing with this condition. And this can apply to other chronic conditions as well, other recurring conditions. You don't have to just suck it up. You can talk to the people who are impacted by your PMDD symptoms, whether that is an employer, whether that is family members and things like that. And these can be really tough conversations. I know that I might sound like I'm oversimplifying this, but this is just for the sake of general awareness and general reflection. You can have these conversations with the people around you and find a way to make space for yourself to take shelter from that PMDD storm. There are a lot of resources online as well that can help with this. And I'll put a couple of those in the show notes as well. All right? So, my fellow PMDD warriors, stay strong, seek out comfort, claim that comfort, because you need it. It's okay. And make sure that you're getting enough sleep, that you're consuming nutritious foods, and telling the rest of the world to just F off when you need to. All right, thanks for listening. Bye-bye.